Welcome to the Northeast Wisconsin Rotary eClub. This is our series of speakers. This is the March version or episode. Our speaker tonight is Stephanie Perea da Silva. She is the Health and Wellness Manager at Kimberly-Clark here in Wisconsin, and she's going to talk to us about living healthy. So I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Hi, as Ryan said, I'm Stephanie Perea da Silva, and I'm the Health and Wellness Manager at Kimberly-Clark. This is a program that myself and my colleague created called Find Flow. We present this in a multitude of different formats, so I'm kind of presenting the condensed version of this. So hopefully you get a little bit out of this presentation on all the different dimensions of health and wellness. So what is Finding Flow? Finding Flow is really talking about in the midst of our busy schedules, we seldom stop to reflect on our lives. Finding flow is providing an understanding to what truly gets and receives our energy, what makes each of us happy, and how we can live the life that we desire. So what is the goal and objective of the presentation tonight is to really set down your bag or sit down for a moment and just try to think about investing in yourself. I'm sure we're all listening because we're good at the things that we do in our life. But in order to have an advantage and be a better leader or even be the best you can be, we must be fit to deliver on all of these demands. Being fit means being physically fit, mentally fit, and emotionally fit. When we say leaders, every one of us is a leader in different areas of our life. I like to look at this slide too because it's a reflection of just, what is important to us. And life moves at a very fast pace, and a lot of us have a variety of things that we're managing: work projects, professional goals, even professional relationships, our family, kids, parents, friends, finances, long-term goals, the things that we do in the community, our health, our hobbies. All of that takes our time and our energy. So then when we look at the dimensions of wellness, those of us in the field really focus on these 4 areas of wellness. When we talk about wellness, we talk about spiritual wellness, and that's not necessarily related to God or church. It's really about understanding your purpose and your mission and having that clear path forward. When we talk about physical health and wellness, it's really about creating a strong and healthy mind, and that includes your nutrition, your exercise, and your sleep. When we look at the mental dimension, it's really understanding how our brain works. How can we be present? How can we be focused? And a piece that some of us lack is that piece of being optimistic. And then the emotional piece. And how do we build emotional awareness? How do we have more positive relationships in our life? So I'm going to dive just a moment here into spiritual wellness and talking about purpose. And so each of us have a different meaning of what this is. What you value determines what you're going to put your energy and time into. And so tonight, when you get off this call, take a moment. Think about an opportunity about what really guides you forward, what pushes you to the next level. Purpose can be seen as a destination. We ask Siri to navigate us in different directions. So we need to kind of sit down and refocus, create a path. And a lot of times we get off that path and we need to kind of find that balance to get back on. So when we talk about what a strong life purpose looks like, it really resonates on a few key things, but providing value and meaning to our existence. Without purpose, we have a lot less motivation to take care of ourselves. And we'll talk about that in the physical dimension. Our days pass, really quickly by. And when you have a strong life purpose, you can look back at your day, your week, even your month, and feel good about the impact that you've had and who you are. Let's hope. I'd like to take a moment just to play this video. This is a great reflection on really thinking about what that life purpose is. Life purpose helps us determine what's important in our lives and dedicate our time and energy there. It helps us find our flow. Who you are now is a consequence of your past energy investments, and who you're going to become will be a consequence of your future investments. So what matters most now? Think about your life. Where are you at on a spiritual level? When you are in your final days, what will you want? Will you hug that college degree in that walnut frame? Will you sit in the garage in that awesome car? Will you look at your financial statement? No, most of us will reflect on the relationships that we've built. That's a little dive into the spiritual side. This is my game changers, talking about physical wellness and exercise. If I had to ask you the question, how many of you exercise on a regular basis? I hope everybody smiles and says that they do, like Barbie smiling right now. Yay, good.
Ryan cannot smile.
No. Exercise is really the best medicine. This little joke here. Bad news, people, the latest research indicates that exercise really is the best medicine. So often we look to those pharmaceuticals to really take care of some of those things, when really lifestyle change can be the biggest change factor. So why exercise? Okay, I think some of you probably know these things, but it's the single most important factor for our overall health of our body and our brain. Our body is consistently changing, growing, rebuilding. This is not a static process. The repair and growth happens throughout the cells in our body. There is really over 50 documented medical benefits. And unfortunately, for those of us over 30, after age 30, our bodies actually begin to decline. From a physiological perspective, typically we lose about 1 to 2% of our lean muscle mass every year after the age of 30. But the good news is that if we can do something to counteract it, we won't have that natural decline. So we have to strategically train to manage our energy and expend and generate a little bit more capacity there. We know the benefits of exercise. So reducing those major chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. We know that it heightens our immune function, prevents depression, anxiety, stress-related disorders. Exercise really affects every cellular and physiological function, and it's fundamental to how our body works. We have 600 muscles, 206 bones, and they're intimately tied to our brain and our nerves. Additional benefits that, we don't list a lot are, more energized life, reducing stress, you have better sleep, weight loss, insulin regulation, fat burning. It really can be seen as the wonder drug. So BDNF, this is something that's kind of a new and emerging science, and BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and we like to call it the miracle grow for the brain, or the wonder drug that you get from exercise. And it's a protein known to promote the health of our nerve cells. So inside the cells, what it does is it activates the genes that increase the production of more BDNF and other important proteins such as serotonin, the neurotransmitter that's really vital for self-esteem. Scientists have discovered that low levels of BDNF have been associated with depression and even suicide. So having more BDNF really builds that brain strength. It sparks that new cell growth. We've seen that it builds new pathways and connections. And the answer is here, how do you get more BDNF? And it's really exercise. Daily aerobic exercise is best, but including intervals or sprints is even better. So, 3 minutes of walking and 30 seconds of a sprint, at that higher intensity. I like to show this brain scan. It really gives us that motivation to move a little bit more. Exercise seems to slow or reverse the brain's physical decay, much as it does with our muscles. Although scientists thought until recently that humans were born with a certain number of brain cells that would never generate more, they now know better. Exercise increases that brain, or that BDNF, like I said, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And in this study, they showed a group of cyclists, and they put them, one group went through an exercise session and one did nothing. They just sat quietly. Immediately after the strenuous activity, the group that exercised had significantly higher levels of that BDNF that promotes that cell growth. So this just gives us that motivation to see how much more active our brain is after getting up and walking around, even for 5 to 10 minutes. So a lot of us have offices that look like this, and there's an epidemic, they call it, sitting disease, and we know that our bodies are not designed to be idle. A lot of science now talks about extended sitting may lead to some major health problems and chronic diseases. And that's scary because it's even if you do regular exercise but have to sit all day. We know lack of movement slows your metabolism. But the good news is we're not prisoners of our environment. Simple movements throughout the day will have dramatic health effects for you. Some movement is what is better than no movement. I'm going to hope this video plays. So I want you to take a moment to think about your day and what are some things that you could, what are some things that you do to add a few more steps into your day, looking for opportunities to move every 1 to 2 hours. At KC, we try to do this campaign 60 and 2. So for every 60 minutes that you're sitting down, you're getting up and moving around for 2 minutes. A trick to that is to hydrate yourself well, because you're going to have to get up and go to the restroom. Walking 10,000 steps a day, if you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or a Garmin, you know, set reminders in there so it tells you to get up and move. Get those rings completed. And how much? So it's 5 to 15-minute movement breaks. It's not going and changing your clothes and doing a vigorous workout. And this concept that some movement is better than no movement. Parking further away, using the stairs, not the elevator, things that we already know, but we need to start implementing a little bit more within our day. So types of exercise, again, nothing new for most people. We need to do aerobic exercise, strength, and flexibility. If you had to ask yourself which one do you think people lack the most, it's going to be that flexibility. Most people try to get in exercise, or the aerobic exercise, they'll do a little bit of strength training, and then we completely slack on that flexibility. So if you're not able to touch your toes today, just think about how you're going to be in 20 years. Your flexibility, your elasticity of your muscles definitely changes. So aerobic exercise, what does that mean? Moderate to intense exercise. So if you're going to do that moderate exercise, you got to go a little longer, 45 to 60 minutes. But if you're going to get in there, you're going to do intense exercise. You're talking 20 to 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Strength exercise, that's 2 to 3 times a week. And honestly, I tell people, start at the beginning. If you don't have time for strength training and you're thinking, what can I do? Start by doing 10 push-ups, 10 squats, and 10 sit-ups every day before you go to work in the morning or before you go to bed at night. Add a little bit in. And flexibility, hopefully we all brush our teeth at least twice a day, right? So do a little bit of stretching in the morning and then at night while you're brushing your teeth. No excuses there. Your workouts don't have to be long, but some of them should be hard. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. You know, we make the commitment, we get to the gym, we see people around us, and then you see them talking on their cell phones or reading books or doing whatever while they're exercising. Make those minutes count. Make them hard. You don't have to go for 60 minutes unless you want to. Get in there, get out. The number one reason why people say they don't exercise is time. You know what? The number one reason retirees say they don't exercise is time. So we're never going to get more time in our day. It's about making a priority. So how do we get motivated? So again, looking for opportunities to reduce that sedentary time. What can you do to, stand up? Going from sitting to standing actually doubles your metabolism. So think about that throughout the day. If you walk around for 1 minute, that's 5 times your metabolism while you're moving around. Start with activities and locations and things that you enjoy. If you do not like running, you don't have to run. That's okay. Do things that make you want to be active. If you like to cross-country ski, if you like to snowshoe in the winter, or if you like to kayak in the summer, those are all forms of activity. Do things that you actually like to do. Exercise with your friends and your family. You'd be amazed on how much your family does want to participate with you, especially kids. Start slowly and work yourself up. You didn't get to where you are yesterday or just by doing it the way you are, so you gotta take some time. And the easiest way to do is begin with walking. Can you add 10 minutes of walking into your day? Another piece of the physical dimension is really talking about nutrition. And there's so much out there on nutrition, and it's really hard to sort through, what is truth and what is a myth. And so I'm going to look at some fact or fiction for each of you tonight. So the first question is it healthy to maintain a low carb or no carb diet? Really looking at a high protein diet. In the end, did you have something, Ryan?
I was going to say, it's not healthy. It's a horrible idea.
Good answer, yes. The answer is no. If you eat protein to the exclusion of carbohydrates, especially the complex carbohydrates, which is what your body really needs for that sustained energy, you're really missing out on those vital nutrients and minerals. It is important to maintain really that balance, that protein, carbs, your fruits and vegetables, really for optimal health. Okay, here's the next question. Skipping eggs, or at least the yolk, will help to lower your cholesterol. No, good. Eggs are often referred to as a really nature's multivitamin because of their wide range of nutrients and vitamins. Honestly, eggs are amongst the most nutritious food on earth. They are full of quality protein. And most people don't know that eggs actually improve your cholesterol profile and don't raise your risk of cardiovascular disease. Eggs actually raise your HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and increase the size of your LDL, or your bad cholesterol, which should actually in turn lower your risk of heart disease. Okay, substituting a low-fat or fat-free foods or fat-free diet is healthier than the full-fat versions. No. So when food makers take out the fat, they substitute it with what we don't want, and that is sugar. And so all that added sugar is definitely not something that we need in our diet. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about sugar in a moment here. Skipping meals helps to reduce your daily caloric intake and can assist in weight loss. Correct. The answer is no. Skipping meals can leave you feeling low energy in the short term, but it also doesn't address your total caloric intake for the day or even for the week. So for instance, if you skip meals during the day and overeat in the evening, you may actually be taking in more calories than if you had not skipped that meal. Question for you here. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Sure.
It's a trick question. So it's a yes and a no. There is absolutely truth that we should eat breakfast. Breakfast really breaks the fast and it gets that metabolism revved up. So absolutely, it's an important meal. But really, all meals are important. And the body is smart. It recognizes the food coming into the body, not the exact time of day that food is consumed. Here's an exercise question. If you avoid eating before you exercise, you can in turn burn more fat and increase your metabolism. No. So the myth is that by not eating before you exercise, you'll force your body to burn more fat during your workout, which is not exactly true. You absolutely need glucose to exert the energy. So when the blood sugar isn't there, your body can convert your own muscle tissue into that energy, which is not what we want. Also, eating right before vigorous exercise diverts blood to the GI tract away from the muscle and could compromise exercise performance and really interfere with our digestion.
Stephanie, we've got about 9 minutes.
Okay. And then the last question is, you should drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water per day. Yes, no? Really, the answer is no. You do not need to drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water a day. It's really based on each person. So it's based on where you live, your level of activity, a lot of things go into that. So really just staying hydrated is the most important, and drinking water rather than soda and other things like that. So why do we eat? We eat for fuel. We eat because we need it to process our body. But then there's other reasons why we eat. We eat from a social perspective, cultural perspective, emotional, habitual, and even environmental. And I like to always cue people that You have to say no one time in the grocery store, and you have to say no multiple times if you bring it home. So be conscious of what you're buying at the grocery store. How do you live that healthy life? So from a nutrition perspective, we like to throw out this concept of the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the foods that you eat should be considered healthy choices, and 20% of those foods or alcohol would be things that you want or crave. And you can think about that in terms of a week or in terms of a day. Eat light and eat often. We like to say eat strategically. So we know not every plate is going to look as meticulous as this, but making sure that you're keeping that blood glucose even throughout the day. So eating every 3 to 4 hours. That'll help control your cravings, decrease your likelihood of overeating, help maintain that muscle mass, and prevent that excessive fat storage. I don't really have a lot of time tonight to talk about the glucose story, but it really talks about that supply versus demand in our body. And really looking at this slide, making sure that you are eating throughout the day, because when you don't eat, like I explained previously, it's going to pull from your muscle cells. It's not actually going to pull from your fat cells. So eat every 3 to 4 hours, really never go more than 4 hours without eating, and then always combine a carbohydrate with a protein. So don't just eat an apple or eat a banana as a snack, combine it with nuts or some cheese or peanut butter or something like that. And then increased supply versus demand, that's really the more common side of things. And this slide kind of talks a little bit about how type 2 diabetes starts for a lot of people. But really, what to take away from this slide is that we need to keep that green line, that glucose within homeostasis, within that peach, really throughout the day. You're going to have those peaks and valleys, but when you overeat and overconsume on a regular basis, it is directly going into your fat cells. Your brain and muscle cells only take as much as they need for 2 hours. We definitely don't want to be in hibernation status. So this is what happens when we consistently overconsume. Another way to look at how much you should eat is really to take a look at your hand. You don't have to have the fancy measuring cups and all that good stuff. You can take a look at your hand. And so if you wanted to look at what your plate should look like, this is what portions are. So a palm of your hand or 1 handful is really your protein serving, 2 servings of grains, and then 2 handfuls of fruits and vegetables is really what your meal should look like. Looking at the food labels, making sure that you're aware of the food that you're consuming. Marketers are really good at making things seem very healthy. So it's your time to turn over that box and look to see what's in it. A lot of times for the same amount of time to prepare, you can have a very healthy meal. So the slow cooked oats and the blueberries and the honey serves as a much more healthful option than that oatmeal on the go bar. The mental wellness piece, I thought I had an hour to talk, so I'm going to just skip right through this side of things. Sorry, guys. Talking a little bit more about mindfulness on the mental piece of it. And a lot of times our minds are full. They're moving all the time. And so taking a moment to really think about where we're at, stop throughout the day and really, be aware of your surroundings. And, don't just look, try to observe, don't just swallow, actually taste your food. Don't just sleep, dream, don't just think, feel, and don't just exist. You want to live. Keys to your mental health and your resiliency, notice the stressors in your life. Stress can be a friend. Oscillate, get up, move around. Avoid multitasking, slow down, be mindful, and take a moment to breathe. And then I'll just end here on emotional wellness. And to be fully engaged in the emotional dimension is to really be dominated by those positive, opportunity-based emotions versus negative, survival-based emotions. So check in with yourself. How are you feeling today? How do you feel on a typical day? And how do you wake up each day? Have an attitude of gratitude. So practicing gratitude is a great thing because you can't be grateful and angry at the same time. And practicing gratitude really builds your emotional bank so that you can store up the positive emotions for those stressful situations. So tonight, simply write down 3 things that you're grateful for. It's a very simple exercise. And I'll end here with a great book. It's called Flourish by Martin Siegelman. If you haven't read it, it's a really great book about the emerging research for the well-being model, basically. And so he talks a lot in this book about the model of PERMA and how positive emotion, engagement, relationships, and meaning really help to establish us for that lasting well-being in our life. Did I get through it enough time? Am I cut off?
No, that cut off yet. A couple minutes. Stephanie, could you send, if it'd be okay, could you send me the slide presentation? I could add it to our Facebook page. If you don't mind.
Absolutely can. Yes.
Okay, that'd be great. We can post that as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A lot of good
One of
information.
the questions I was having was what's the biggest fallacy that you hear from people that you're working with about health and wellness and that category?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things I hear the most is that I think it's this concept that I'm so far gone, I don't know where to start. And I think people have this perception that, they think about how they were in their youth or whatnot, and they have to be that way, that's what fitness is to them, or that's what healthy eating is, or you have to give up everything to have this lifestyle. And I think that people really just need to be more realistic with themselves, that life is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. This isn't supposed to be structured and rigid and whatnot all the time. But I think people are stuck in that, if you look at that emotional dimension a little bit more, they're really stuck in those negative emotions, which I think is really hard for them to drive into that positive.
All right. We'll stay on for a minute afterwards, but I'm going to wrap up the meeting so we have the full recording for today. So thanks, Stephanie, for joining us. And we hope to have you back at all the rest of our meetings once you fill out your membership application.
We did.
Great.
All right. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
We're in the recording here, but we keep talking.